Hello. All right, this video is about relationships and specifically how to have good relationships with friends and family, and also I'm just going to share some ranky-dank stuff about how crappy my relationships were and how awesome they are now, okay? It didn't happen overnight. It was not easy, trust me. Okay, it was not easy. But the reason I'm giving you guys this video is relationships and communication is a big part of the program that I'm launching. You should all know it by now if you're watching these videos. It's called, what is it called? Freedom to Thrive. Freedom to Thrive. Freedom. Okay, I don't know why I get directly into like booty music. Freedom to Thrive. Really? Self, work, and vocation, relationships. Most important things in my life, outside of oxygen and water, H2O, I don't know about you. Really, to me, there's nothing more that falls under that. Like spirituality falls under self. Self-care falls under self. Love and intimacy falls under relationships. Money falls under business and work. Everything falls under these three things. That's why they're the biggest money-making industries, okay? And they're just foundational for human beings. I don't want to convince you about this. I don't need to convince you about this. I don't know what I'm saying. Let me share with you. This is the last portion of Freedom to Thrive. It's not the last, but it's sort of the tail end piece that we focus on, which is relationships to yourself, first and foremost, relationships with your friends and family, love relationships for sure, and partnership, and boundaries and communication. So let me give you guys a little story about how jacked up my last year was. In 2015, I came back to Detroit to essentially, I ended a relationship. I moved out of New York after 8 years, and I was in Boston for 2 years. So I had effectively been living on the East Coast for a decade. And I moved back to Detroit because I wanted to try it on, but also because I needed to heal. I basically shut down my business for a few months, more than a few months. I just needed, I don't know, what's the equivalent of a mental health day for like a while? I just needed that. And I moved back in with my parents for a few months, and it was a disaster. It was a nightmare. We didn't get along. I wasn't setting boundaries. They were saying whatever they wanted to me. I was already feeling very vulnerable. Then, something happened within my family where I needed to sort of pay more attention to them. I don't want to get into the details because people freak out every time I talk about it. Basically, like I needed to take care of my mom and help her with her business. And that's all I'll say about this right now. But it was an intense period of time. I was fighting with my parents constantly. I didn't know really how to help, but also still maintain myself. And what was happening was I was in complete survival mode, complete. And I was so stressed out, like my hair was falling out, no joke. And I was just, it was awful. I moved to Thailand for 3 months simply just because I needed to like be so far away. Like who does that? Who moves to Thailand to literally get herself back together? Like that was me. Obviously now I'm a little embarrassed sharing this with you. And obviously guess what? I moved powerfully through it, and the only reason I'm able to do this with you right now is because I had to attend to my soul. And that's why this program exists. It's coming from, it's literally coming from my soul. So and when I moved back to Thailand, I did end up living with my parents before I got my own apartment, and I had a real shitty relationship with my dad. It was awful, just awful. I mean, fighting constantly and saying the worst things, and he was saying awful things, and I just felt distraught and almost like estranged, which is never a word I would think about I would use for my family. And so I had to do a lot of work this year on communication and setting boundaries and being very clear about what I needed. And it took literally the whole last year and a half. But it's completely transformed. It's taken a lot of courage. It's taken a lot of tears. It's taken a lot of hard conversations. And every one of those things was necessary. And so part of what I want to share with you today is, what do I want to share? Really the couple things that have made the biggest difference to me in developing now what I feel like are very friendly, warm and love-filled relationships. I've never laughed more with my dad than I have in the last 3 months. My mom and I actually, and I never considered her like an affectionate person or anything, like we have real love between us. And the biggest thing of all is I am able to be myself. Before, I always used to feel like I had to like prove to them who I am or what I'm doing, or be a version of myself that was like successful, or I always just felt misunderstood. And I don't feel that way anymore. I just don't. It's actually kind of cool to tell you guys about this. So here's the couple things that I want to talk about, and this is what I teach you in the program, and this is also, by the way, what I bring experts in. My own self-love coach, Renee, who I've been working with for close to 2 years now, who I will work with for the rest of the year, and maybe longer, who I would pay double what I pay her. Don't tell her that. I tell her that all the time. Is going to be talking to you guys. She's going to come in, and actually, for the people who are in the program, she talks to us about self-love and boundaries and communication. Liz D'Alto, who is a super powerful coach in movement and boundaries and communication, her and I worked together in 2015, and she's a friend, and she's going to be coming in and teaching about this particular topic because I was like, I need help. Sasha, who is a feminine leadership expert, she's talking about boundaries and self-love. Like, it's all the stuff that we need to hear, and it's not just from me because I didn't learn it on my own. Okay? I learned part of it on my own, and then I needed a lot of help. So they're going to be talking to you guys about this too. But here's the nitty-gritty. Number one, you need to have boundaries with everyone. I mean, everyone. When Renee told me this, I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I know I need to have boundaries with, like, maybe my parents, but do I need to have boundaries with, like, certain friends, or do I need to? You need to have boundaries with everyone. That doesn't mean you're a hard, KGB style enforcing officer with your boundaries. And actually, that's one part of learning boundaries, is that initially you start to enforce them really hardcore when you're learning how to set boundaries. After that, when you become a little bit more nuanced and experienced and fluid in the language of boundaries, you start to be a little bit more flexible in how you set them, and they're received better. Let's just say that. I remember I was setting boundaries like all over the place, and people were just like, all right, well, here's the picket fence around you then. And I wasn't doing it powerfully. But the point is, boundaries are necessary with everyone. With your dog, they're necessary, okay? In fact, dogs need boundaries, 100%, in order to have a thriving relationship with you. So use that example. With a baby, with your grandma, she can be the most loving person, and you still need to have boundaries, because what is sovereign is self. If you yourself do not understand your own energy, what you need, how to set boundaries around what you need, you're not going to be able to powerfully function in your own life or be there for others. I couldn't serve or do these videos or help anyone or coach anyone if I didn't feel sovereign inside of myself. The way to feel sovereign is to recognize who you are is valuable, and your energy and your time are valuable. I place a high worth on myself. And so that means I need to have actions and boundaries to uphold that worth, right? Not in a bad way, in a very real, honest way. It's like the whole oxygen mask thing. Okay, you genuinely cannot live in this world if you're giving away all your oxygen. So first and foremost is boundaries, okay? Second thing is, how do I say this? Let me think about how to say this. I guess the best way I can say it is dropping stories. The way that I would say it is dropping stories about who you are and who someone else is. I'll give you an example. I made my dad wrong the entirety, the end of 2000, so from September 2015, I would say all the way up until this summer, or like September 2015 to September 2016. I made my father so wrong on every level. Whether we were speaking, every single interaction we had, no matter what we would be doing, no matter what we would be saying, even if it was loving, in my mind, I thought of him as this person. And he occurred to me as this person who wasn't meeting my needs, who was selfish, who was da 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 da. And so I had a lot of like anger and hatred and just disrespect. And I had a lot of baggage going on here about him. And guess what? It colored every single interaction. And so part of what I had to do was figure out what was real and how to operate in reality. And part of it was me dropping stories, getting out of story. Now, that's a really hard skill. So I'm gonna teach you as much as I can about how to do that in this program. But it's really powerful when you can do that. Because once I started to drop that story, and it took a while for me to get there, but once I dropped it, my behavior, my energy, my attitude changed. And I will tell you, you don't have to change so much for someone else to notice it and respond powerfully, okay? So as soon as I dropped this sort of story about my dad and had injected a little bit more compassion, his behavior actually did change. Did it change overnight? No. Did it change across the board every single time? No. But was there a real pattern of growth and reciprocity and love? And, you know, he really did respond, and I give him so much credit. And of course, it's making me emotional because this is what is powerful in life, is recognizing where you yourself are stopping yourself and stopping growth. And I needed to see that. I needed to go through that process that I went through of making him wrong, but then I needed to go through this process of dropping my story around him. He's such a wonderful dude, and we have so much fun. If you see my dance videos, you see us like just rocking out. Like, we're the same person in a lot of ways. And so, anyway, once I was able to drop that, I was able to show up as the real me, and he was able to show up as the real me. Because guess what? The real me is not anger, frustration, survival mode. And the real him is not anger and anger, right? These aren't our real selves. And in fact, you know you're not your real self when all you feel is stressed and it's manifesting in your body. It was manifesting in my body for sure. Okay? So these two things, really dropping your story, which is not an easy thing to do, but it's definitely doable. I am a living, breathing testament to that. And I will tell you, I held fast and strong to my stories because I believe I'm aware and, you know, an evolved human being. And of course, there's always still more evolution, but I was like, no, I'm looking at my stuff. And then there was still another level for me to look at, a really powerful level. And the first thing was setting boundaries with everyone and anyone. Okay, so these are the things we teach you in this program. It is no joke. Let me tell you what else we talk about. Obviously, relationships, building loving and connected relationships, powerful and effective communication. So how to have hard conversations, how to actually have these conversations is one whole workshop, one whole training module. And setting boundaries. I teach you all of this. So does Renee, so does Liz. I brought them in specifically to help you with this because I needed help with it. And now I've really become practiced at it, but I want them still to teach you this. So this is what we talk about in the program. I got a little emotional. It gets like that. This is life, okay? I'm very real with you guys. I don't mind. I'm going to link this page below where you can apply for the program and also email me to talk one-on-one. Listen, if you have questions or if you're like, I don't know, what is all this relationship stuff? Why are you crying in your videos? I need help with X, Y, and Z. Just email me and we'll talk, okay? It's not even just very open to it. I welcome you to do it. Don't have a question or think you might want to do something without asking a question or like talking about it. That's the one biggest thing. Say no, don't join the program, whatever, but don't not get what you need. Ask the question. Get in touch. And you may still be not the right fit, or you may still be like, you're not the right fit. Or you may be like, yes, I'm in. Either way, it doesn't matter. Get what you need to help clarify for you. That's my biggest concern. Okay? So I'm going to put that in the link below, and I will see you on our next video. Believe it or not, we got a couple more, because I got good stuff to share with you guys. I want to share it all. Okay? Sayonara.